Welcome back to Day 2, Session 6 of the South Carolina Manufacturing Conference and Expo here on SCBiz TV. Always one of our most popular events. Up next is the annual Women in Manufacturing, Leaders and Influencers event. The presenting sponsors of today's Women in Manufacturing event are Michelin and Nephron Pharmaceuticals. I want to take a moment to hear from both of those sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
Pick-and-place robot that moves the product vials from the conveyor into the tray. Layers can be turned and oriented 180 degrees from the preceding layer to facilitate a more stable and level layer in each tray cavity. A camera captures the image of each tray entering the tray loading cell to ensure it is empty. Once the tray is filled, the barcode is scanned and is inducted into the inventory system. This system is capable of handling up to 100 cards of 5 vials per minute, completing one tray in 1.2 minutes. The palletizing robot will move the empty trays onto the tray conveyor. Once the trays are filled with product, the palletizing robot will pick up the full tray and move it to the output pallet conveyor. This system is capable of handling one complete pallet of 75 trays in 1.5 hours. At this station, the robot picks up the bottles from the infeed screw and places them in the metal tray. 2 cameras will capture an image of the tray entering the tray loading cell to ensure it is empty. Once the tray is filled with the bottles, the second robot will move the tray onto the output pallet conveyor. The filled tray barcode will be scanned as each tray exits and is inducted into the inventory system. BART is short for Bosch Automated Rotary Tip Filler. This was the first automated syringe filler commissioned by the Nephron 503B outsourcing facility. This automated filling system is capable of filling and capping 5 and 10 ml polypropylene syringes at a rate of 30 syringes per minute. The only human interaction with the filling process is loading syringes via the in-feed rail and the introduction of syringe caps to the sorting bowl. Syringes are filled to a preset fill volume utilizing a peristaltic pump, which allows for precise fill accuracy. Syringes are capped utilizing a robotic arm, which is capable of picking, placing, and rotating a cap onto the syringe. A human-machine interface, also known as HMI, allows for control of all machine parameters. In order to ensure that hospitals have the safest and most affordable sterile products for their patients, Nephron has collaborated with the University of South Carolina School of Engineering and Pharmacy School to develop a robotic system for the production of injectable products in a sterile environment. All manufactured components are original designs by Nephron employees and University of South Carolina students. This robot improves the functional sterility of a currently manual process by reducing the need for human interaction with critical locations during filling operations in an ISO 5 classified work environment. This robotic system is a self-contained unit that sits within the filling hood. It is programmed to fill each syringe to a specific volume and cap each syringe after filling. The palletizing robot will stack the cases containing finished product and complete a stack based on a preset pattern. Once the pallet is completed, it will move to the automated stretch wrapper. This robot picks up the corner board and adds adhesive. It then places the boards on each corner of the pallet. A sheet of cardboard is laid on top, and the stretch wrapper will wrap the stack. The pallet then advances to the last step in the process, where a label is placed and scanned. A laser-guided vehicle will pick up the pallet and transport it to the warehouse, where it will be inducted into our finished goods inventory. This system is capable of handling up to 70 pallets in 24 hours.
good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Williams, and I am the Director of Recruiting and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Michelin North America. Michelin is honored to serve as the sponsor of the Women in Manufacturing panel. With more than 9,000 employees across the state, Michelin has been a proud member of the South Carolina business community for more than 45 years. The value of gender diversity, particularly in the workforce, is widely acknowledged and is a priority for our teams at Michelin. Women bring different perspectives and approaches to business, resulting in a more inclusive workplace and better performance of the company. Our Michelin Women's Network and Lean In Circles are ways in which we help build female leaders and foster an engaged female workforce around the world. While collectively we have made great progress in each of our respective organizations, we still have work to do as we continue to ensure equal representation of women in the workplace at all levels. By listening to women in our organizations and providing an opportunity for them to share feedback with our leadership teams, we can create scalable programs and resources that will help drive and measure progress for all employees over time. As we strive to do better each day for our customers and our community, the commitment and dedication of Michelin employees remains the force that moves us forward on this journey. Once again, Michelin is proud to sponsor the Women in Manufacturing panel. I would like now to turn it over to our panel host, Catherine Hayes, Manufacturing Industry Manager with the South Carolina Research Authority.
All right, folks, let's get on with the program. Women in Manufacturing, Leaders and Influencers. Women make up only 29% of the manufacturing workforce. However, the industry's attitude toward recruiting and promoting women has been changing, and the gender gap is narrowing. Moderating this event is Catherine Hayes, Industry Manager at the South Carolina Research Authority, or SCRA. She'll introduce you to 4 executive women who will share their experiences. Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, Rick. It's my honor and pleasure to moderate this panel discussion of leaders and influencers with such an esteemed group of intelligent and successful women in manufacturing. Today, we'll see that manufacturing really is a cool career path, and we'll get a glimpse of how diverse backgrounds and expertise add value to the manufacturing ecosystem in South Carolina. From professional cyclist turned entrepreneur, from PhD technical leader to VP, our panelists have a very interesting stories and backgrounds to share. Let's get started with each panelist introducing themselves, offering a brief description of a day in their life, whether it's at their office, their plant, or in our COVID world, maybe working from home. Kristen Blanchard, I think I'll go through all the panelists first and then with that. Kristen Blanchard, VP Corporate Affairs at Nutramax Laboratories. Laura Boccanfuso, Founder and CEO of Robotics. Nicole Johnson, co-owner and director of sales of Boys Cycling, and Meg Lanza, director of technical functions in Bosch, Charleston. Kristen, can you give us a little bit of your background and what's your life like at Nutramax Laboratories?
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here and with such an esteemed company as these other women, including you, Catherine. I really do appreciate it. So yes, I work at Nutramax Laboratories. We're a manufacturer of nutritional supplement products for people and their pets. We research, develop, manufacture, market, and sell these products all over the country. We're in over 90% of vet clinics, as well as national distribution. What I do here is I do the community relations. I do all the government affairs and public policy, as well as our communications internally, externally. Now, I don't do it all. I have an amazing team. I've been with the company for 23 and a half years. I always make a joke. Yes, I started when I was 10, and then everybody laughs. But of course, nobody's laughing because I don't have an audience that I can see. But I really enjoy what I do. I have such a passion for serving people and creating relationships. And I will tell you, there is no day the same. And you would think 23 years at the same company, although in different roles, things would get boring, it is never boring. I'm not necessarily at my desk a lot. I'm constantly interacting with people. I create relationships and build relationships both internally and externally. So I just love what I do, and I love being in the manufacturing environment. My dad was in manufacturing. My husband's dad was manufacturing. Worked at Eastman Kodak and Xerox. My internships during the my college actually was with manufacturing companies, a barcode scanner, as well as with Eastman Kodak. So it's just interesting that that's where I landed in manufacturing. Plus, I'm very much an animal lover. And so to be able to work and meld those two things together is just a joy. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm excited about everyone else.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I appreciate that. Laura, you have a very interesting background as well. Can you share a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. Thanks, Catherine, and thank you for putting this panel together. This is really exciting to be part of it. I founded the company about 3 years ago. I was a PhD student in computer science and engineering. I focused most of my career on developing AI-enabled technologies and machine learning techniques to help machines adapt how they work or interact with humans. And so the focus of my research was really the genesis of the company. And so when I left academia 3 years ago, started the company with a passion for continuing to support the experts in the field who are really building technologies and really helping intervention for children specifically with learning difficulties. So today, Van Robotics creates AI-enabled robots to help people overcome learning challenges. Our first product to market is Abi, which works with K-5 students to deliver course subjects in an adaptive, personalized way. We are in 23 states now in just our first year of sales. We have a tremendous team of people who have made that happen. So a look at my daily life typically surrounds managing both the technical teams and the sales team. I spend half of my time probably really balancing the software and the hardware side of things, and then really looking at building out our national and soon to be our international sales in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, so it's been a wild ride this year. I'm happy to report it's been good. We've been able to pivot and sort of manage things in our first year of business, and it's been a great experience so far. So love the company, love what we do here, and excited to be part of this panel today.
Laura, that's really exciting to hear. Thank you for sharing your success so far. Nicole, I'm sorry. Nicole, are you with us? Good.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I'm here. Hi, thank you so much again for being a part of this panel and with these lovely ladies. It's a true honor. I am a co-founder at Boyd Cycling. My husband and I started the company together 11 years ago, truly off of our passion of cycling. We both raced professionally, and I always worked in corporate America as I was racing. And so I worked in the high-tech industry and had a fluid career happening in that direction. But when we decided to start the company, my husband started it, and within a few short months, he said, I need you to quit your job and come on with me. So it's been a wild ride. And like I said, 11 years has gone by really fast. But on a daily basis, I do everything from HR to working with accounting. I do have an accountant and a controller now, but early on, I had to wear a lot of different hats and just learn a lot on the fly. And so it's been great to be able to take our passion of cycling and develop an international company. So we have 12 employees now, and our wheels are produced here at our facilities in Greenville. We hand build all of our wheels. We design everything, and we also work with manufacturers in Asia and around the world. So have lots of experience in manufacturing and working with different groups and different cultures, and so had to learn how to do all of that. But on a daily basis, I love coming to work. It doesn't feel like work because it truly is, stemmed from my passion of cycling. So.
Thank you, Nicole. It's been fun working with Nicole on a couple projects, and we hope to take that further this year. Meg, pleasure to have you with us.
Hey, Catherine, thanks for inviting me to be part of this today. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's so nice to learn about these other ladies and all of the things that they're doing. It's really cool. I work at Bosch Charleston, and I'm responsible for a department called Technical Engineering Functions. And it's a very diverse team composed of process engineers, industrial engineers that work very closely with our Bosch production systems team. So a lot of lean manufacturing type responsibilities there, as well as master planning for the entire plant. I'm also responsible for the Industry 4.0 initiative at Bosch Charleston, as well as a team of tool makers and tool designers and production of samples in our plant. So really a diverse team. Forgot about facilities management. That's also in my area of responsibility, and site security. So again, a very diverse team. So no 2 days are ever the same. A lot of different activities going on, interaction with international teams, a lot of change management type activities, and also just keeping the plant running and optimizing the way that the plant runs and the way that our processes run. So I really love it. I have a background in industrial engineering. I've been in manufacturing for over 20 years and in automotive manufacturing for over 20 years. I love the field, and I'm excited to be here again today. Thank you.
That's great. I hope all of our conference participants are as excited as I am with this diverse group of people that have really already made huge positive impacts on manufacturing and continue with their careers to do more. With input from SCMEP and the panelists, we've developed panel questions to guide technical and manufacturing professionals attending this conference and also beyond in their career path, regardless of gender. Stick with us to learn from the experiences of these leaders and influencers. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start with Nicole. You made a dramatic transition from professional cyclist to sales for an international sports company, having been in high tech as well, to entrepreneur and co-founder of Boyd Cycles, as you already mentioned, who's actually manufacturing by hand specialty wheels. Sometimes we plan our career path into each promotion, and other times it just happens. Can you share with us a bit how your path unfolded and what pivotal decisions did you make along the way?
Yeah, absolutely, Catherine. It's funny, and reading that question, it made me kind of go back to the past and think through how all this even happened. Because I was very set on a career. I went to college learning PR and marketing and journalism, and I came out and hit the ground running in corporate America. And I went to work for a startup IT high tech company in Charlotte, and I was working about 80 hours a week. I was doing really well financially. I was achieving goals and involved in this entrepreneurial environment that I loved, and got to a point where the level of stress was starting to get to me, just being young, and literally was working 60 to 70 hours a week. I started riding a bike to balance my life, which, was just doing it for fun. And then very quickly my competitive nature took over. And before I knew it, I started racing. And it was just what I wanted to do. And I remember making a phone call to my mother when I started getting to a point where people started to notice my ability. And I said, Mom, I want to quit my job and I want to race a bike full time professionally. And, she just said, well, good luck. If you want to do it, you'll figure it out. So that was a pivotal point for me to decide that, do I really want to do this? And, if anyone knows cycling, it's not a money maker. It's not a way that you can, develop a career for a long period of time. So what I did was I figured out how to balance my professional career, just in corporate America with riding a bike. And so very quickly, I just realized that I wanted to pursue that long term. I met my husband and things just kind of came together. And before I knew it, we had been racing all over the US and still working full time. Once he was getting ready to retire at 28, he said, I want to start this company. And I said, okay, well, go ahead. I can pay our mortgage. And like I said earlier, within 3 months, he needed my expertise with sales and marketing. And that's kind of how it unfolded, and feel very lucky to be where we are today. So,
well, I think you're a testament to hard work and commitment and seizing an opportunity when it presents itself. So, great story. Laura, switching gears a bit, this is more on the STEM question and technical fields. In the US, less than 20% of young women consider technical fields in manufacturing as a career path. And I am sorry to say that hasn't changed a lot since I graduated. We can have another discussion later about what we're doing wrong, but what about what we're doing right? How did you choose this path? And how can new technologies like your company's smart robot tutor, Abby, increase the talent pipeline to technical fields in manufacturing?
I think that's a great question. One of the things that I struggled with when I first started the company was recruiting, and I wanted to make sure that we had a very a diverse team, because our end user is a diverse population. So we wanted to make sure that our team reflected the people who would be using the product. And one thing that I think has been extremely helpful is that we really try to couple as much as possible the application of the technology as the development of the technology itself. So we look for those intersections between disciplines and expertise that are more fundamentally or have been traditionally, occupied by females, with the hard technical side of things that have been traditionally occupied by males. And I think that by fusing those two things, by really looking for input from both of the equation, when we develop the technology, we have been able to recruit a pretty diverse team of people that includes both women and men from a very wide range of backgrounds. So I think the future for STEM and the future for manufacturing for women is really going to be improved, both for the outcomes of the devices, the products that we manufacture, because they'll be better informed, I think, for the ultimate end user, but also to bring in more diverse populations of people, because they'll feel that their input is actually valuable.
Okay, good. So I think in that way we can all celebrate tech, right? It maybe kind of democratizes things. Meg, we've all heard the expression "to be your authentic self." That comes up often when we're talking about women in different fields. But how does this translate into practice in manufacturing and business scenarios? And what advice can you offer professionals pursuing a technical ladder or leadership roles?
Right. I really think the advice that I would give, or the way that I would interpret being your authentic self, could apply to anyone, regardless of gender. Really, don't pretend to know things that you don't. It is just as important to be able to draw on your network, or to show that you are capable of learning and interested in lifelong learning, and proving that you are able to be developed and able to be flexible, than to have to know everything. And I think really the person that has to know everything is kind of a turnoff in the workplace. It's much more, it's much easier to work with someone who can find the answers, and you can trust them to do a multitude, I guess, of different projects, because you know that just because they don't know everything going in, they will learn it and they will be able to problem solve and figure it out. So I think that would be probably one of the biggest pieces, I would say. As you move up in an organization, or as you want to move up, it will no longer be possible to be an expert in everything. You are going to be given responsibilities in areas that you don't know much about. And as a leader, you're expected to find the gaps in those areas and to address them, and to use the talent that you have on your team to address those problems. And that's what's more important than knowing how to solve the problem, or actually solving the problem yourself. Also, as far as authenticity, one really important thing for me in my career has been to learn to take feedback and criticism. So everyone says they want feedback, but what most people really want is praise. And negative feedback can be very hard, or constructive criticism, as we call it, can be very hard to take. But one piece of advice that I have received is to not respond to that in the moment, but to just take it, accept it, walk away with it, sit on it for a couple of days, and think about, is this accurate? Can I see this? Can I see why this person would think this? And is there something that I should change about my behavior? or you may come up with the realization that that really wasn't fair. I don't agree with that. And after a certain amount of time, you may have to come to a decision and make a choice. Is this the right place for me? Or can I not be my authentic self in this particular position or this particular organization? And do I need to make a choice to move somewhere where I can realize my own potential in a better way?
I really appreciate that response. And one of the things I learned from a cancer survivor was go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And I think there are occasions where that is the right approach. And I would add one more comment, that I actually would take feedback too seriously and then analyze it to death for weeks. And I actually had some advice pretty early on from a director that, you know, Catherine, we appreciate that you are really conscientious, but let it go.
Yes.
You know? Okay. He's like,
Sure.
You're undermining yourself now. So,
Yeah.
Kristen, moving on to you, building relationships is a really important part of becoming a strong and effective leader. And building on what Meg said about, you know, being your authentic self, and also learning as you advance that you have to trust your people that work for you to be the experts. In your role as VP of Corporate Affairs, you deal with a wide variety of people, both internally and externally. What have you found to be effective ways of building longstanding positive relationships with a variety of people, and why is that important?
Well, I said before that relationship building is part of what I do, and it's who I am. And it goes off what Meg is saying. I mean, if you try to be somebody you aren't, and you aren't authentic, people aren't going to trust you. So you've got to be genuine. You got to be who you are. I find things like listening. I mean, it's hard to really, really listen. I'm a note taker, so I really try to listen to people. When I was younger, it was a lot more challenging. And even now, sometimes, because I'm a very type A, results-oriented person. But when you build relationships with a variety of people, you really have to listen to them, and you have to try to help them. I'm also kind of have a servant leadership style, and I think that builds trust. But it takes time, and you have to be patient, and you can't. I'm not a salesperson, but I believe strongly in the soft sell approach, which means you got to build those relationships, and you can build on those coalitions to do great things. I deal with anything from, you know, working in a boardroom as at one point one of the very few females in Washington, D.C., with a bunch of, you know, men that may be much older and maybe more experienced than me when I was younger, to working with, you know, military organizations, supporting our firefighters, building relationships with law enforcement, the sheriff's office, police officers, animal shelters and rescues, schools, children, Christian organizations. So I am so ingrained in so many different areas that I have to know just to be myself. Don't try to be somebody. And I used to say, you know, you hear this politicians pander. Don't do that. Just be yourself, and let your true feelings of compassion and care come out to people. And I think that builds those relationships. And I have some, I would say, actually friends. And then internally, we have a very diverse area, because not only do we have production and quality assurance, we have chemists, quality control, because we run more like a pharmaceutical company, supply chains, distribution. All of our corporate headquarters are here. So marketers, legal counsel, regulatory, you know, anything you can imagine, we have in our company. So we have a very diverse work group. And so building those relationships internally, you just have to understand that I would honestly say listening and taking time with people and building those relationships make a world of difference. And people will know that, and it needs to be positive. And you can still agree to disagree on things and have a good, lively discussion on certain issues, but you always be respectful. So that's really, I think it's really important. No matter what we do, no matter what role we are in, we're always building relationships. And so with leadership, that becomes very important, because if you rub people the wrong way and you burn bridges, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and I think we've all seen that regardless of the industry you're in, it gets smaller and smaller the longer you're in it. And you see folks again throughout your career. So I think building on what Kristen just talked about with relationships, women and minorities have been coached in recent years to identify mentors, and some companies even assign mentors to their new hires. You've mentioned your experiences with mentors. What are a few of the key lessons that you were taught, and how did this advice influence your decisions?
Yeah, I mean, we've in the last 5 years been really fortunate to work with a mentor group. It's called VMS. It's through MIT. It's a program that was brought here to Greenville through the Next Innovation Center. And so they selected Boyd Cycling as originally one of the guinea pigs when they first launched the program. And I love talking about that because it's impacted our company so much. And you know, there's in working with them over the years, there's been lots of things. You know, we work with 4 different executives. One has a manufacturing background, one has a sales background, another is a scientist with iCar. So we've access to some really amazing people. And you know, the thing that they can continuously say to my husband and I is, you've got to see the forest through the trees. And so as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to get into the weeds on a daily basis and really get overwhelmed with doing and just constantly making the company move forward. And so, you know, it took me a few years, honestly, to really understand what they meant by that, which also translates to you've got to work on the business versus working in the business. And so, you know, so it's like if you can kind of go with a bird's eye view or raise up above and see it, you know, from a tall building, you know, that really impacted me. And I started to understand that we had to, you know, plan and had to really think ahead. It's not about what's happening just now. It's about forecasting the future and, you know, really taking your business plan and implementing it, not just have it in a cupboard somewhere when you originally came up with your ideas. The other thing that, you know, we've always taken the position on and is, you know, be willing to ask for help. You know, it goes back to what the girls are talking about with authenticity. You know, I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of times you're expected to know everything within the company. You have to be an HR director, a CPA, a marketer, an engineer, an innovator. And so, you know, Boyd and I really looked at what are our strong skill sets and what are the things that we can bring to the table that will make us thrive. And then what are the things that we don't really understand? I'm all about being resourceful. And so, you know, doing that on your own is key, but then being willing to bring in experts or people who can really help guide you is something that I really believe is important in being successful in no matter what you do, whether it's manufacturing or in other industries.
So I'd like to volunteer that SCRA is trying to do that right now with Boyd Cycles. So
it's good.
Laura, as an entrepreneur, in addition to the kind of a mentor network, how has your professional network or personal relationship helped you to achieve success? You mentioned that you kind of took your passion from your research and developed this product, but how do you suggest professionals expand their network to find people who can really add value and also that you can reciprocate and add value to them?
Yeah, so we probably didn't take the traditional path to entrepreneurship. I think many PhDs or academic startup founders tend to stay with their academia positions, and then they kind of do the startup thing on the side. But I do think that looking at things from a non-traditional point of view or perspective really helps you understand what the true value that your professional network or personal network can bring to you, because I think everyone starts off at a different point and has potentially a different set of valuable sort of personal resources or professional resources available to them. For example, I think in the beginning, most people said, you know, oh, coming from the world of academia, it's going to be hard for you to fund your business initially. But I really do believe that the personal, you know, relationships that I had built as an academic really helped us to get non-dilutive funding, which may not be traditional or typical funding for a brand new founder of a startup, but was incredibly important and really facilitated the ability for us to be able to get our first prototypes out there and do our market research the way we really wanted to do. Secondly, we really made an intentional effort in the very beginning, a very small team of us, I think there were 3 of us all together, realized that we needed to have more professional development, a professional network within the startup community. And so by looking for opportunities to get that mentorship and to get that sort of that network growing in the right direction towards a more entrepreneurship mindset, we looked at accelerators, and we were able to, we found some great people at Techstars and were accepted into that program. That was a massive, a very significant sort of step forward for us as we were getting started, because we knew the product so well. We had spent a lot of technical, sort of time and expertise building this technology over the years. We knew that part well, but we didn't really understand or fully appreciate all of the things we didn't know or should be preparing for the startup world. So knowing what your gaps are, knowing where your maybe where your weaknesses are in the very beginning, especially, I think is important to take a really honest look at them and say, this is an area that we could really use more help with. What are some great resources that we could possibly throw our hat into, regardless of whether it seems far-fetched or not? To try to start forging those relationships with people, just as Kristen was saying, and just as Nicole was saying also, I think having that ability to kind of understand what the value is of another professional network and really working towards building that relationship with people has made a huge difference. We still keep in touch with a lot of the people that we made, established relationships with and had sort of great meetings with in the very beginning. And they continue to add value. There was a kind of an old school investor that started with us when we were back at Techstars. He used to cut out newspaper clippings, which, I don't know many people that do that anymore, but I have to say it was incredibly useful because he was continually thinking about what we were doing and how he could help us advance to the next level. That's the kind of professional mentor, the kind of network that is a true value add, right? Because that person is not just, hey, there for you when you give them a call and, you have a question, but is actively trying to help you in their own circles as well. So I think, I think the two things are look what you have, use what you have to start with, and then find out what you don't have and try to build those relationships as best you can.
So I'm going to add that I'm actually grateful to SCRA for both of you, Laura and Nicole, because although I absolutely love what I do on the tech transfer to industry, which is been a great experience, it's new for me to work with entrepreneurs, and I've learned a lot from all of you, both on the mentoring and connecting. Hopefully we're providing value in funding, but also just learning what you go through is really valuable. Meg, you've been a leader at Bosch on the Industry 4.0 journey really for a long time, and involved in planning the strategic vision for the Charleston plant from pilot to scale in numerous projects. What techniques have you used to influence leadership decisions to allocate resources for Industry 4.0 automation and digital transformation? It's great to prove the technology, but how do you move it forward and scale it?
I think a couple of years ago, a friend of mine asked me what my job was, and I was describing it. And I talked a lot about Bosch production systems and lean manufacturing and continuous improvement and Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. And that person said to me, "Oh, you're responsible for all those things that everyone wants, no one has the resources for." I was like, yeah, kind of. So it's always been a challenge. I've always been somewhat of in a change management position. And there's a few things that I've learned along the way that typically will help to move a culture change or a program along. There are many different types of change management models out there. One that we often use is called ADKAR. And the first two initials in that stand for awareness and desire. And one of the things that I have learned is to make sure to differentiate between those things. Communicating about a change is not the same as making someone want to change. So we've really had to separate those two things and focus on the what's in it for me, or even if it's not what's in it for you individually, what's in it for our business, what's in it for our company and for our long-term sustainability and growth. That is one topic that I typically try to address in change management. Also, we often use the concept of a pilot area. So we find an area where there are people that are passionate, that are like-minded, that are high energy and knowledgeable, and that want the change. And then we give that area the opportunity to implement the change, and then we use them as a benchmark for other areas in the plant. And it kind of is a spirit of competition. It spurs that a little bit, because when you see improvements in one area, people will say, I want that. And they've already proven it can be done. Well, if they can do it, I can do it. So, and also they're getting results, and I want those results. So we often use that pilot approach. Another approach that has been very successful for us, and this often takes some time for the organization to realize that this is where you have to go, but ultimately you have to 100% dedicate some resources to the culture change. So you have to pull those resources out of the organization, out of the day-to-day firefighting and troubleshooting, and allow them the time to focus on the change, to lead with content and knowledge, and to drive the organization in the right direction. And these people can be the ones that really define that direction, set the roadmap, and then help the organization move in that direction. Otherwise, you've got a bunch of people scattered throughout the organization that maybe they're interested, but they're trying to do this in addition to their real job, and it's a hobby. And we don't move the needle fast enough. So in the automotive industry, we are very interested in speed, making changes quickly. We all live in this world where there's a lot of this, volatility and ambiguity. It's a very chaotic world, and we have to move fast, and we have to fail fast and make decisions quickly. And when we have this team that's kind of pulled out of the day-to-day, we're able to do that. We're really able to accelerate the changes that we're trying to put in place.
So you cut out just a little bit, Meg, but I would say all of what you described reinforces the previous conversation about relationships and building that network and tapping on them. I like this idea of, building that spirit of competition and collaboration to go from pilot to scale. Kristen, I think the next question for you is related, but you have a different perspective. So while most manufacturing leadership focuses on the business KPIs, and as Meg was talking about the speed of what you're doing and what you're working on, you, as you already described, have to work externally with a vast group of people, and state and federal agencies and legislators and regulatory bodies and firefighters and pet rescues. How does your perspective differ from your colleagues, and how does your external experience add value to the leadership team?
Well, I do want to touch on something real quick, and it's going to answer your question, but the entrepreneurial spirit. I love hearing these stories, because when I started my company back 23 and a half years ago, the company was only about 5 years old. The company actually started with 2 people and an idea. Actually the founder and 2 employees. And, he was a pharmacist by trade and wanted to help people and create products outside of the drug arena that could actually protect and prevent health issues as opposed to treating them down the way. So he had a real passion for that. And so when I started the company in 1997, there was only 35 employees. And fast forward to today, now we're in 2 different states with 4 different facilities. We're actually in the process of expanding one of our facilities to double its size. We're actually building the facility from the ground up. We just implemented an SAP ERP program that's just going into place. So KPIs back when I first started, you did it all. I mean, everybody's talking about that. I mean, I remember it was so much fun. I was still in my 20s. I was 29 when I started with the company, and it was like, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. So it was like, there was no KPIs. And it really was, I mean, I did regulatory, legislative, community relations, patent litigation. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'll just say that right now, but it was just, you talk about a way to learn a business. It is unbelievable. So I feel blessed that I got that opportunity. And I love the, back to your question about, how does it differ from other teams? I think it comes down to that it's not quantitative, it's qualitative. And what we see, if you want to call it the return on investment and is that it really is about creating a situation where people will say, hey, this company has potential expertise. So say I'm on a board. Let's talk to Nutramax, or let's talk to Kristen and get some feedback on this. Those kind of things go in spades, especially locally in the community that you work. The relationships I build from a legislative standpoint sometimes is interrelated to my community relation work. So I'll be at a community event and they'll see me supporting the community, and then you'll see your local congressman, your county council, your city council, and they get to know that, wow, this is more than just a company. This is somebody that really cares about the community. So I always say, I'm like, yeah, it's different, but it all interrelates, and it's all about serving others and a servant leadership, and they see that leadership role. And it does, it's not about, everybody talks about, the return on investment, and that we want a license to operate, which is very important, corporate sustainability, and, it all interrelates, and it's all about serving others and a servant leadership. And they see that leadership role, and it does, it's not about, everybody talks about, the return on investment, and that we want a license to operate, which is very important, corporate sustainability, and, corporate citizenship. But for us, it's so much more. And there are measurable things that we can do today that we didn't do years ago when we were smaller. But for the most part, I think the key is not only seeing the external value, but then your internal folks have to see that as well. Why do you spend so much time developing these relationships? And then they start seeing people that come in, they see people talking about the company in the community, and they see people say, hey, I want to come work at Nutramax. It's workforce development, it's everything. And I think it's those intangible benefits that is so important. So I actually, again, love what I do. I've just been blessed to be able to create a department. I will tell you, it didn't exist when I first started. And it's always fun to create things from the ground up and kind of make it something that everybody can grasp on. I love what Meg was saying, is that, you don't want people just to, here, you're going to do this, especially with corporate communications. Here you go, do it. You want people to buy in. You want people to feel part of something bigger than just their little piece in the pie.
So I think we really have talked about this in many ways, with two of you being entrepreneurs, and Kristen, you just describing that entrepreneurial spirit from the early days, and Meg is talking about entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship by launching, something new internally. But continuing on that vein, with innovation is a key factor for success in a global economy, and specifically, the dynamic markets we see now. What advice can you offer companies, in addition to what you've already talked about, to foster the entrepreneurial spirit or entrepreneurial spirit, but internally, and culture to attract and retain, well, whether it be men or women innovators? We hear that that's really important, but are folks really, are they serious about it, in companies, and what can we do to attract that and foster the entrepreneurial spirit? Any comments? Either any of you? I think Laura might have had to jump off
on that. Cool. So something that we do different, and it's a little bit easier because we're smaller. I think in larger companies, there needs to be more structure in place. There needs to be, roles very defined. I mean, we have roles very defined in certain aspects. I mean, we're a production house, so our wheel builders know exactly what they need to do on a daily basis. But what I've done is I've always had my eyes open to my people. And, this probably sounds, microscopic, but, people's body language, the way they communicate, the way they handle themselves in meetings, a lot of times you can see very clearly if they would want an entrepreneurial type of role, or if they wanted to take on more responsibility. And so just an example, I had a guy that we hired, and he originally came in as a wheel builder because he wanted to learn the craft. But in interviewing him, I recognized that that wasn't going to be his career long term, but he had all these other attributes that I saw, would be really great for our company. And so he worked for us for 4 years. He was in his 20s, so he had a lot of, aspirations. but I changed his role 3 times. And by the time he left, he was completely controlling a department for us, had implemented all these SOPs, and just had improved our company so much because I gave him the freedom to be who he was. And so I do think, identifying people's strengths early on and allowing people to flourish will attract the right people for innovation and helping your company grow effectively as a team and work really well together.
We're coming down to the wire on the time, but do either of you have anything else you want to add to that discussion? You good? I think we're going to take just a minute and address how COVID-19 has impacted us. And I know that, again, we're kind of down to the wire on the end of our time together, and I really appreciate this discussion. I think I've been taking notes, so I think our audience is going to be really appreciative too. But Meg, you had mentioned an interesting and unique approach to managing with COVID-19, and I think it would be worth sharing with the other participants, what you did differently and why it was effective.
Yes, at Bosch Charleston, we did many of the standard precautions against COVID. We accelerated our cleaning procedures and provided ample hand sanitizer and cleaning materials and required masks, and all of those things. We're still doing that. But we did have the opportunity to pilot a program that really fed into our data-driven organization approach. So trying to make decisions using data rather than kind of just like gut feeling. And what we did is we purchased some social distancing bracelets. And when people wore those bracelets, whenever it would collect data about when they were within 6 foot of another person who was also wearing a bracelet. So we put these on people that were working on an assembly line that volunteered to do this. And then when the bracelets passed by a gateway, the data from the bracelets would download into that gateway, and then we could take it and analyze it. And by doing this, we were able to see when the people that were working in this particular area were within 6 feet of each other and how frequently. So at that point, we were able to see exactly where we needed to put up more plexiglass barriers. And we were able to experiment with adding people and removing people from the line, or having people work different stations to see what the so-called safest or least risky configuration would be. And we took the guesswork out of it. We were able to use data to make those decisions. So that was a pretty cool pilot that we were able to do as a result of COVID.
That's great. Thank you for that. I think that's something we can all learn from as well. Kristen and Nicole, do you have anything you want to add about anything you've done, personally or professionally in your organizations to kind of manage the impact of COVID-19?
Nicole, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Thank you. For us, it's been really interesting because the bicycle industry has exploded. What's happened is, more people are getting outside. I think with the change in work schedules and family commitments with homeschooling and different things like that, more people are realizing that they enjoy riding a bike. So our world has really changed from the perspective of supply chain and forecasting and budget and all the things we had planned. We've done 30% more than we originally did, and so it's a silver lining with everything that's happening in the world. But it's cool that more people are getting outside, and hopefully will increase just better health and enjoying some of the things that we should as in our everyday life.
And thank you. Kristen, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm gonna say something about Nicole too. Of course, we always did all the CDC guidelines, social distancing. We already in a certain situation where we have a variety of different positions. So you really have to we had teams that met every day initially. So we took it seriously. We also, you talk about childcare. One of the things we did is in the summer, We actually supplemented and created more positions at a local school that had childcare to help with our employees, and we actually supplemented the cost of that to help because they were kind of in a bind. So I thought that was really unique. And I will say too, as a nutritional supplement company, immunity is so important. So we're really encouraging the health and immune system and being healthy of our employees. That's one of the big things that we feel is so important, because you're going to have cold and flu season. You're going to have, it's not going to go away. And the best way is with your immune system. And if you're compromised, that's another situation. But, being healthy is a big factor.
So I want to thank all of you. This has been really, I think, educational for me as well. And Meg's enjoying the beach, so she's living healthily, at least in spirit, even if not in reality. So again, thanks to all of you. It's been very educational and informative and fun as well. So I appreciate all that you do for the technical community and manufacturing in South Carolina. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Kristen, Laura, Nicole, and Meg. We appreciate all of you joining us and sharing your thoughts. Up next is the last session of the two-day South Carolina Manufacturing Conference and Expo here on SCBiz TV. In just a moment, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster will provide some comments. As a last reminder, don't forget to check out our virtual exposition and check out SCBiz Upskill, where you'll find a wide variety of training courses for manufacturing employees, HR execs, and other industry leaders. We'll be right back.